I need to do this for my family. This is not a surprise to anybody. It's really sad that it's got to this point, but I've got to do something for my own mental health, for my wife's, and for Archie's as well, because I could see where this was headed.
The photograph that broke the internet appeared without warning on January 26, 2026. Prince Harry, bearded, disheveled, half-curled beneath a thermal blanket in the back seat of his Range Rover, his face slack with exhaustion, his boots still on. His eyes closed against a reality he could no longer escape. This wasn't a prince temporarily displaced. This was a man completely unraveled. Within hours, the image detonated across every platform. Twitter exploded. Instagram went into overdrive. News networks interrupted their regular programming. Because this wasn't just another Sussex scandal, this was the visual confirmation of what insiders had whispered about for months. The American dream was over. And the nightmare? It had only just begun. The foreclosure. For weeks, rumors had circulated about financial implosion, whispers of missed payments, talk of mounting debts, speculation about desperation calls to London. But rumors are just noise until they become fact. And on January 24, 2026, fact arrived with a vengeance. The Riven Rock estate, that sprawling Montecito sanctuary, purchased for $14.65 million in 2020, was officially repossessed by Bank of America. The reason? Harry had failed to present proof of renewed homeowners insurance, a requirement that had lapsed amid California's escalating wildfire crisis. Think about that for a moment. A prince who once had teams of people managing every detail of his life couldn't keep track of insurance paperwork. That single lapse triggered technical default. The mortgage, $9.5 million still outstanding, was called in immediately. No grace period, no royal courtesy, no way out. Because here's what most people don't understand about exile. The royal family will not provide for those who choose to leave. By January 2026, the fairy tale had turned into a cautionary tale. And Harry was living it in real time, one parking lot at a time. The house that dreams built. Let's rewind for a second. When Harry and Meghan purchased Riven Rock in 2020, it symbolized everything they claimed to want: independence, privacy, a fresh start. The property sprawled across manicured grounds with Italian gardens, a pool, a separate guest house. It screamed success. But here's the problem with symbols. They're expensive to maintain. The purchase itself was their first critical error. They put down only $5 million in cash. The rest? Leveraged on promises, potential earnings, and the assumption that their celebrity would print money indefinitely. Their second mistake? Not securing long-term insurance in one of America's highest wildfire risk zones. By January 2026, that oversight proved fatal. On January 22nd, appraisers spent 6 hours cataloging the property's contents before the eviction order was posted. What did they find? Imported Italian furnishings, a baby grand piano that had been featured in a now-abandoned Netflix series, custom wardrobes with designer labels still attached, high-end security equipment, even monogrammed children's dinnerware. Every item was listed, photographed, boxed, and marked for off-market liquidation. The estimated value of everything inside? Just $1.3 million. That number didn't even scratch the surface of their debt spiral, because the real crisis wasn't the house. It was the $36 million black hole swallowing them whole. The Netflix disaster. Remember the Netflix deal, the one announced with such fanfare in 2020? The reported $100 million partnership that was supposed to secure their financial future. Here's what actually happened. Netflix paid $25 million up front, but it was structured as a recoupable advance tied to specific deliverables. Translation: they had to actually produce content to keep the money. They managed one documentary, one podcast pilot, and Pearl, an animated series that was shelved before entering development. That's it. By January 2026, Netflix had seen enough. They invoked their clawback clause, demanding $20 million returned by March 31st, 2026. $20 million. Due in 2 months, to a couple living out of suitcases. But wait, there's more. The Tyler Perry betrayal. Tyler Perry had been their guardian angel. When they first fled to California, he provided security, housing, transportation. He covered costs without complaint, building a tab that quietly ballooned over 5 years. By December 2025, that tab had reached $3.6 million, and Perry's patience had run out. In December, his legal team issued a formal notice: repay or face litigation. On January 10th, final demand letters were dispatched from Perry Holdings Trust. The man who had sheltered them when no one else would was now demanding payment, because even generosity has limits when it's being exploited. According to insiders, the breaking point came when Perry discovered Meghan had authorized a $280,000 PR contract just weeks after missing payments to their Malibu security firm. "She's managing a brand, not a crisis," one advisor reportedly told him. And that brand is now a liability. Think about the psychology of that moment. Your benefactor, the person who literally gave you shelter when you had nowhere to go, discovers you're spending 6 figures on image management while stiffing the people keeping you safe. What does that say about your priorities? The split nobody's talking about. Now here's where things get truly disturbing. While Harry was photographed sleeping in his car, where was Meghan? Posting curated photos from Beverly Hills cafes, designer hotel lounges, luxury spas, smiling against marble countertops, sipping matcha lattes that cost more than the daily rate at the motels where, according to former staff, the children were now sleeping. Let that sink in. On January 21st, the couple appeared briefly at Sundance Film Festival, but observers noted something chilling. They arrived separately, posed apart, exited from different wings, no visible interaction, no acknowledgement of each other, no sign of the children. The optics weren't just bad, they were grotesque. Meghan's glamorously detached presence contrasted brutally with Harry's reality. Dispossessed, disgraced, functionally homeless. One viral comment captured the public mood perfectly. If you can afford $70 cocktails, you can afford a school uniform. Former protection officers began describing Harry's new reality in unvarnished terms. He keeps the engine running for warmth. He showers in fitness center bathrooms. He uses prepaid phones to avoid account freezes. He eats mostly takeout and protein bars. He doesn't trust anyone anymore, one source admitted. Not even Meghan. That comment, once unthinkable, now echoed across royal briefings. William breaks his silence. On January 27th, Prince William sat down for a BBC One interview that would change everything. The host asked about the photographs of Harry, about the foreclosure, about the rumors of a bailout request. William didn't flinch. "This was not unexpected," he said calmly. "We've known for some time the state of things. But it is not a role of the Crown to extend public trust funds to mend personal miscalculations." Then came the revelation that stunned everyone. Harry had requested a $50 million bailout from the Duchy of Cornwall. $50 million. William had flatly rejected it. "It was not a question of emotion," William explained. "It was governance. The Duchy is not a rescue fund for failed celebrity ventures. It's a public-facing institution with fiduciary duty, and that duty comes before sentiment." He paused. The tone shifted. "You've seen the images. So have I. But if you know my brother as I do, you'll know this isn't foreign to him. Before Montecito, before palaces, Harry was the rebel. I've seen him sleep in saunas, in barracks, in cars, after fights. I've watched him push every boundary. Another pause. Heavier this time. But that defiance has limits when children are involved. For the first time in the interview, William looked visibly shaken. I am not shocked by the hardship, but I am deeply saddened by the arrogance that led us here. The interview lit a fuse. Within hours, royal correspondents, public figures, and thousands of citizens weighed in. Some praised the firmness, others decried the harshness. But one thing was undeniable. The veil had been lifted. This was no longer a battle of image. It was the beginning of something far more dangerous. The crown unites. Behind the scenes, the entire royal family had united behind William's decision. Catherine, King Charles, Princess Anne, Prince Edward, all of them supported the refusal. Why? Because they'd grown alarmed by Harry's increasingly desperate outreach in early January. Calls to financial intermediaries that painted a picture not just of illiquidity, but of complete capitulation. A detailed financial dossier compiled by palace accountants and external legal advisors revealed what one official called a cascading liquidity event. The report included mortgage default notices from Bank of America, formal clawback demands from Netflix, terminated protections from Tyler Perry's Security Trust, denial of new credit lines by multiple U.S. banks and credit unions, evidence of continued high spending by Meghan Markle, inconsistencies in corporate filings for Sussex Global and Archwell. The Duchy of Cornwall's financial audit, conducted by PricewaterhouseCoopers, was released early, showing impeccable records, public reinvestments, and zero exposure to Sussex ventures. The message was unmistakable. The Crown's finances were sound. Harry's were catastrophic. Within 48 hours of reviewing this report, William's office dispatched a formal denial letter to Harry's legal representatives. There would be no loans, no discretionary gifts, no property guarantees, no interim coverages for security, housing, or legal representation. The letter was signed by William personally and countersigned by Catherine, Princess Anne, and Prince Edward, signaling institutional unity. But here's the question nobody could ignore anymore. Where were Archie and Lilibet? The children. This is where the story stops being about money and starts being about something far more serious. Official reports began reaching Kensington Palace in mid-January detailing something unconscionable. Archie and Lilibet were being shuttled between Airbnb rentals, boutique hotels, and converted guest houses. One security contractor's report noted the children had slept in 5 different locations over a single 9-day stretch, often without full schooling, without consistent caregivers, without structure. There were no private tutors, no verified school enrollments, no consistent domestic staff. One palace official put it simply, they have iPads, but they don't have a classroom. Think about what that means. These aren't just any children, they're descendants of the British royal family, and they're living like refugees. Doria Ragland, Meghan's mother, was reportedly delivering food, clothes, and educational supplies when she could. But the lack of structure was undeniable. On January 23rd, an unconfirmed tip, later corroborated by former security aides, revealed something even more disturbing. The children had been living out of suitcases for over a month. No permanent nanny, no registered doctor, no fixed tutor, and most damning of all, no legal residence tied to school enrollment in either Los Angeles or Santa Barbara County. This wasn't mere inconvenience. This bordered on neglect. One report filed by a local school registrar noted that Lilibet had been registered for a trial preschool placement, then withdrawn within 48 hours. No explanation, no follow-up, just another disruption in what should have been a stable childhood. The palace responds. Buckingham Palace didn't issue a public statement, but inside, red folders moved quickly. The Lord Chamberlain's office began reviewing custody precedents. Legal teams explored the diplomatic implications of asserting protective guardianship for two minors with royal lineage, but no active title or security status. Behind closed doors, Catherine reportedly pressed for calm precision. "This isn't about reclaiming children," she told William. "It's about protecting standards." On January 28th, Kensington Palace issued an internal memorandum invoking Clause 9 of the Royal Custodial Safeguards Act, a rarely used provision that permits intervention when minor descendants of royal lineage are found to be at risk due to unstructured, transient, or potentially unstable environments. Though not legally binding in the U.S., the move signaled serious intent. Lawyers were instructed to begin diplomatic consultations with UK-US liaison offices to assess the possibility of supervised welfare arrangements. Princess Anne took the strongest stance. "We ignored the headlines. We ignored the interviews," she told the family council. "But this is about children. We do not let children fall." It wasn't just a grandmother's sentiment. It was a constitutional line. Between January 27th and January 30th, Kensington Palace reportedly received more than 2,000 letters and digital submissions from military families, veterans, pediatric nurses, and child welfare advocates, many of whom had once supported Harry's Invictus efforts. Their message was consistent. "We understand hardship. We understand mistakes, but we do not understand abandonment, not of duty, not of family, and not of children." The Meghan paradox. Meanwhile, Meghan's behavior became increasingly difficult to reconcile with reality. On January 26th, the same day Harry's car photo went viral, she attended a skincare launch event in West Hollywood, dressed in ivory silk and towering heels, posing beside a branded flower wall, accepting compliments about her glow. She never mentioned Harry, never referenced the foreclosure, never acknowledged the crisis. On January 28th, she posted from a Venice Beach wellness center photos of scented candles, luxury facial serums, and a quote that read, "Let go of what you thought you needed to survive." The comment sections erupted. "Where are your children? Where is your husband?" Meghan never replied. Comment sections were limited. Reactions were not. Insiders at WME, her former agency, revealed that all active brand partnership discussions had stalled. One Hollywood executive described the Sussexes' current status as unfundable. "There's no structure, no support system, and too many questions," they explained. But perhaps the most devastating image came from an unexpected source. A Target employee in Glendale who recognized Doria Ragland shopping alone with Archie and Lilibet. No security, no PR team, no chauffeurs. Just a grandmother in aisle 17, buying school supplies and basic clothing. "It was quiet," the employee said. "The boy looked tired, and the girl kept asking if they were going back to the pink house." Doria didn't answer. That pink house, sources later confirmed, was a temporary guest cottage in Pasadena where the children had stayed for 4 nights before being moved again. How does a parent justify that? How do you reconcile attending wellness events while your children ask strangers when they're going home? The ultimatum. Behind the scenes, something even more dramatic was unfolding. In late January, King Charles issued a sealed ultimatum delivered through formal intermediaries, invoking powers unused since the abdication crisis of 1936. The terms were stark. Divorce Meghan Markle within 30 days, or forfeit all remaining rights to title, inheritance, and future reconciliation with the Crown. Symbolic or practical. The deadline, February 1st, 2026. Harry's response? Silence. And that silence terrified the monarchy more than any interview ever could. The retaliation plan. According to 2 former Netflix executives speaking anonymously, back-channel activity spiked dramatically in late January. Dormant intellectual property filings from 2022 were suddenly updated. Pitches involving fictionalized royal escape narratives, memoir adaptations, and dramatized miniseries resurfaced at multiple European production firms, notably in France, Canada, and Germany, outside the direct reach of U.S. regulators. One pitch package intercepted by a London-based legal team carried the working title, The Royal Trap. Another used the subtitle, One Man, Two Crowns, No Escape. A private Canadian distributor working through a Luxembourg proxy had reportedly acquired early distribution rights to a limited docudrama series produced under a shell company linked to former Archie affiliates. Its working title, The Spare, Uncaged. Its subject, a man trapped between birthright and betrayal. Its target release window, mid-2026, with teaser material expected within 60 days. The signs were clear. Harry wasn't just cornered. He was preparing to retaliate. Palace legal teams issued pre-breach alerts to former staff, contractors, and security providers, warning them against leaking sensitive information. Lawyers reviewed existing NDAs signed during the 2020 exit. But legal protection was only half the battle. He doesn't need to break an NDA to damage us, one senior advisor admitted. All he has to do is imply. All he has to do is remember on camera. Operation Iron Curtain. Inside Kensington Palace, the final phase of contingency planning began. Codename: Operation Iron Curtain. Senior legal advisors, press officers, and foreign liaison staff were summoned for a full-day session. Its goal? Anticipate and neutralize every potential media weapon Harry could deploy. Unpublished memoir excerpts, unauthorized footage, leaked emails, old voicemails, unreleased Netflix recordings. It's not just what he says, one security analyst explained. It's the timing. If he speaks first, we lose the narrative. If we preempt, we risk confirming the worst. William had already made his final decision. In a private letter to the Privy Council dated January 31st, he reiterated, "The monarchy is not a revolving credit line for private collapse. It is a standard, and that standard, once violated, cannot be bartered back." On January 30th, William participated in a special panel discussion on BBC4 about ethical stewardship in public institutions. When one panelist referenced recent headlines, William responded deliberately, "Transparency is not cruelty, and oversight is not betrayal. I love my brother, but public duty, especially when tied to inherited resources, must come with accountability. Not everyone likes what accountability demands." Palace aides confirmed the comment was deliberate, reviewed in advance with King Charles, and approved as part of a larger media strategy to reinforce William's position not as an estranged sibling, but as a future monarch tasked with guarding public trust. Catherine agreed. After reviewing the financial litigation summary, she met with William and the head of legal strategy. Her message was blunt. If this ends with a scorched stage, we must not be on it. Her strategy: let Harry speak. Let Meghan release her curated truths. But the monarchy would not engage in spectacle. Instead, it would escalate credibility through precision, restraint, and unshakable calm. When shown the paparazzi footage of Harry at a coastal truck stop, Catherine remained silent for several seconds before speaking quietly. He used to disappear into the night and come back with stories. Now he disappears and leaves questions. The Crown's countermove. 3 coordinated moves unfolded almost immediately. First, Buckingham Palace issued a rare statement confirming that all children of Windsor descent have a right to institutional stability. No minor shall be left unprotected due to parental misjudgment. Second, the Duchy of Cornwall's financial audit was released early, showing impeccable records and zero exposure to Sussex ventures. Third, Princess Anne attended a child welfare charity event in Manchester and delivered a pointed comment to ITV: "A child deserves structure, not strategy." The message was unmistakable. The Crown would not flinch. Inside Clarence House, King Charles's own tone had shifted. Where once there was tension between his paternal instincts and sovereign obligations, the scale now tilted firmly toward institutional discipline. In a closed-door briefing with Privy Councillor Chais on January 29th, Charles reportedly said, "I can forgive disobedience. I cannot finance it." The Manila envelope. At 5:14 a.m. on February 2nd, Harry's car was spotted leaving a low-budget motel in Encino. A Manila envelope sat in the passenger seat. Its seal bore a familiar crest. Not royal, but Netflix. Whether it contained a settlement, a script, or a contract, no one knew. What they did know: the 30-day countdown had expired. Harry had not returned. He had not divorced. He had not bent the knee. Multiple reports suggested Harry and Meghan were no longer functioning as a unified pair. They were coordinating independently, each handling their own image, finances, and communication channels. "He has nothing left to lose," one official said simply. "That makes him more dangerous than ever." The final door closes. The palace moved to stage 3, symbolic disinheritance. A quiet motion, drafted by the Lord Chancellor, was prepared to reclassify Harry's public standing within the Windsor lineage as non-participating royal descendant. It would not strip his bloodline, but it would revoke remaining ceremonial privileges, prohibit formal engagement in Commonwealth or Crown events, block access to future royal inheritance or coronation witness rights, deny title succession rights to Archie and Lilibet unless permanent UK residency and school registration could be verified. William signed the motion. Charles gave silent assent, and thus, in the cold, polished halls of tradition, a door was closed. But the world now watched a different door, the one that leads to a Netflix edit bay, or a book draft, or a courtroom. The storm ahead. So where does this leave us? Harry, living out of his car, clutching a manila envelope that might contain his final bargaining chip. A man who once had everything now has nothing but memories and grievances. Meghan, curating wellness content while her children bounce between temporary housing. Still posting, still posing, still maintaining the illusion even as the foundation crumbles beneath her. The children, caught in a transatlantic custody battle they're too young to understand. Moving from house to house, asking when they can go home, unaware that home no longer exists. The monarchy, fortified, unified, and prepared for war. No longer willing to bail out a prince who chose exile, then complained about the consequences. And the public? Watching every move. Because this isn't entertainment anymore. It's a cautionary tale playing out in real time. Here's what makes this different from every other royal scandal. This isn't about affairs or protocol breaches or embarrassing photos. This is about children, about stability, about whether a bloodline entitles you to a safety net when you've spent years attacking the very institution that holds it. William put it best. Transparency is not cruelty, and oversight is not betrayal. The monarchy has drawn its line. It will not rescue Harry from choices he made willingly. It will not fund his continued existence in exile. It will not watch royal descendants drift without structure. But it will protect Archie and Lilibet, even if that means protecting them from their own parents. Queen Camilla had warned William at Balmoral, "You've left him no rope. If he falls now, he won't just hit the ground. He'll burn the entire scaffolding down with him." William's reply was short. Then it was never scaffolding. It was illusion. The question now isn't whether Harry will retaliate. It's what form that retaliation will take. A tell-all documentary? A dramatized series? A memoir with no holds barred? And when it comes, and make no mistake, it's coming, will the monarchy's strategy of precision, restraint, and unshakable calm be enough? Or will Harry's final act burn down the very institution that gave him everything, then watched as he threw it all away? Because while the monarchy has fortified its castle, the man in the car still has the key to its attic. And if he turns it, even once, the silence will end and the storm will break. One thing is certain, we're about to find out whether a prince without a palace can still shake a kingdom. What do you think happens next? Will Harry release damaging material that rocks the monarchy? Will Meghan finally face consequences for her role in this catastrophe? Will the children end up in royal custody back in the UK? And most importantly, could this mark the beginning of the end for the Sussex brand? Drop your predictions in the comments. Because this story isn't over, it's just entering its most dangerous chapter yet. And when the next bombshell drops, we'll be here to break it all down.